All right, let's try and build an app for release to the App Store on a Windows machine, and this is for Android, obviously. So what I did was I went to this URL, and this is the official documentation of Xamarin, and I went to this case study, and I downloaded this app from the source code. There's also the code on GitHub, but I just downloaded it and opened it. And let's see, when you download it, you're going to see this folder, and you go into app, and then you open the acquaint.xforms solution. And that's what I have now opened in Visual Studio 2017. And I ran it, and I can't get an Android emulator to work on Windows, but I ran it through my actual device, and it works just fine. So if I build it, it should technically work if I deploy it to the App Store and then install it from there. So you say, okay, everything's ready to go. What do? The first step is you read the documentation, and you might want to go here to the Xamarin documentation for step 1, preparing an application for release, and read all this, but we'll just go through that. So first you go to your project where there is always a .droid, that's for Android, and you go to properties, and then you go to Android manifest. This is some information that's necessary for when you build. And then you put whatever information is relevant to your app. So this is what was here by default. You might want to put the application name, that's like the user-friendly name, and then package name. This is how you can access the app directly on the App Store. If you can't find it in search, this is the key that you put in this URL to find it. So you would go to play this URL right here, and then you'd have your package name, and then you would put that right there, and it would find it. So someone has obviously already uploaded this under that package name from this demo. So I'm not sure what happens if you just use the same one and it conflicts. So I would change this. I'm going to change this to something unique. Okay, I think this is fine. Application name, I don't think that has to be unique. So I'll just put something generic. Version number, I would probably put this back to 1. Then you have your target level. So API level 17, that's pretty old. So I think that's good because it will target phones that are pretty old. And then whatever permissions are required, you know that from the code you're using when you test it, and it needs to use the camera or whatever else. So I think that's fine. Okay, so then you want to, so if we go back to the documentation, and we start up at, so we put the version of the application, which was just 1.1. You could read, what that means here. But then it starts with all this other stuff, shrink the API, linker, ProGuard, all this complicated stuff that we don't need to do. So maybe we'll go over that in another video specifically. But then once it comes down to compile, that's when we need to pick up and do what we need to do, which is go back to Visual Studio, change the compile mode to release, and then rebuild the project. Okay, so when you change it to release, it takes a couple seconds to change all the settings that it changes. Now I'm gonna just rebuild. Okay, rebuild all succeeded. So now once we've done that, we look at the physical folder. There will be a release folder now with everything compiled in a release format that is optimized for production. So then we would continue on and look at what the next steps are is to archive. So let's go back to here, right click on the Droid project and then click archive. Okay, so now archiving is done, and you said, please take a snapshot of this app as it exists right now. It's good to go, tested, works, ready to deploy. So now we look back at the documentation and we're going to go to distribution. I'm going to read this and do what it says there. Okay, so basically just skip to part 2, and this is when you say I'm going to distribute, and then you have to sign your app. So it's got a digital signature on it indicating that it actually came from you and nobody else. So go documentation is part 2, and we are going to go into Visual Studio and say distribute. We're going to do ad hoc, and here, let's see, we need to create our key that allows us to sign something. So you might have one already, or you can click this plus sign to make a new one. And I don't know what the relevance of any of the names are, but I don't think it matters. You just put your put this information, and then it just creates the key for you. And you can just say, I will use that. Make sure you remember the password you put in. Say, I'm going to use that as the thing that's going to sign my APK. So now it's going to do that, and it's going to create an APK, which is the file for an Android app. And you can just put it wherever you want. I'll just put it in the same folder of this project. Probably should go in, well, I'll just put it there for now. It doesn't matter. You should probably put it in a good place where you are storing the different versions of your app for Android. Just put it there. And you have to put in the password that you just typed for that key store. So hopefully you remember that. And then it's done. And then you can open distribution or open folder. Does the same thing. I don't know why they oh no, so this is not the same thing. So you want to open distribution. Sorry. So that just goes to the folder where you just saved that APK. You could have just gone there manually, but they have a button to let you do it. So there is your signed app. Now, somehow you need to get this APK onto an Android device. Of course, you can do that many ways. You can just email it. You can put it up somewhere and have a link to it on Google Drive or something. And Android is really easy. You just, any way that it can access this APK file, it will install it and run it. So that's fine. But let's go through how you get it onto the Play Store. That's more interesting. So if you go back to the documentation and we go to part 3, publishing an app on Google Play. So you can read this. First, you need to go to your developer console. And if you go to play.google.com apps/publish, and if you're already signed in, it's just going to my thing because I'm already signed in. But if not, you just sign in with your Google account. You will have to pay $25 and just go through the sign-in process. Should be no issues with that. But once you do get there, I have one app that I was just testing with, but if I want to create another application, I push on this button, and this is for internal use, I think, maybe. I'll give it a name. And then it goes to the details of this specific application. So you see up here the name of your app. If you click back to all applications, it goes back to the listing of everything. Let's see. So if I click on my other one, you can see that it's published. And this was just a test. So they actually published my joking around app that didn't really do anything. But let's do this one, which actually is kind of real. And let's go through the things. So when we're on this detail page, you're going to see all these exclamation marks. And these are telling you the things you have to do in order to get it published. And you have not done these things yet. That's why the exclamation mark is there. So if we go back to the documentation, it tells you that you have to do all this stuff, but we can just use these indicators, which is a little bit easier. So we have to go through and type out a description. So if we go to app releases and we hover over them, well, let's start at store listing. So store listing, you have to put a description and a full description and a short description. I'll just put whatever, some words, and then let's see. So it does say I need to add a full description and a short description, but if I save it, I can save draft, and then if I hover back over, those items disappear. And now I only have 5 tasks to complete before you roll out. So if I scroll down, basically anything with a asterisk is indicating what is necessary. So I need screenshots, and you need 2 screenshots. That's like screenshot of actually using your app, and then you need 2 icons to be the icon of what represents your app. So I'll go ahead and upload those. It can be anything. I mean, this is where you're going to have to come up with what you want your icons to be, but I'll just use like whatever. Okay, so I just made some random screenshots of Visual Studio. I just uploaded some images I made with just squiggly lines. Doesn't really matter. Pick a category, application type category, and content rating. So let me save this, save the draft. What else is it asking? You need to enter a privacy URL. And I'm just going to say I don't have one. So now my store listing is done. Let's go to app releases. So this is where you're going to actually upload the APK that is your app. So let's see. I'm going to say I can manage an alpha, beta, and production. I'm just going to manage a production, and in release, I'm going to create a release. So then now it's asking me if I want it to secure my thing for me. I'll say, okay, sure, whatever. Maybe if I understood it more in depth, maybe I'd say no, but we'll just keep it simple for now. And so now I have to find where that APK was that I just compiled or deployed, and that is right in my main root folder of the solution. And I'm going to pick that one, and it will update it or upload it. And if we didn't do the distribution process and signing it, it would give you an error saying it wasn't valid. But since we did that, it is valid. Okay, and it is uploaded. Now I will review it. Okay, so here's a complication. I need to read the phone, the state of the phone. Apps using these permissions are required to have a privacy policy set. Okay, so I need to go back. So now the store listing is, now it's giving me an error again. And it's going to say I need to put a privacy policy. So I'm just going to shortcut this. I'm going to go to my GitHub account and just create a gist. I will not use your information in a bad way. And then I will use that link as the privacy policy. Hopefully that works. Okay, looks like it works. App release is now happy. Yep. Okay, so now if I still have issues though in other areas. Content rating. I need to determine if my app is good for all ages or not, which of course it is. It's just a simple contact app. And then let's see, select your app category, content aggregators, communication or other. Does the violent material? No. I'm just going to say no because it has no bad stuff in it at all. No. So then you have to save it, and then you have to calculate your rating after you save it. Two separate things. Then you apply your rating, and then it says looks good. Submit. Okay, so that now I got a green check mark. So now I'm going to go to the next thing, pricing and distribution. This app is free. And what I have to do is choose the country that it will work in. So I'm just going to stick with good old United States and make that available. And then, is your app directed to children? No. Does it contain ads? No. And then let's see, there'll be more things with the stars. So I got to pick the stars and say, I agree. Save draft. Thing about all this is this process that I'm doing right now changes all the time. So 2 months ago, it might have been different. 2 months from now, it might be different. So it's kind of a pain in the butt to know how to do this because it's just changing so rapidly. Okay, so now I got all check marks going. And of course, there's other stuff you can explore. I'm just doing the bare minimum, but there's a ton of other configuration settings you can choose to do. So it's ready to publish. So I'm going to click on ready to publish. And then what you're going to want to do is, let's see, edit release. So I put something in production. So I need to edit that release. I already added it. I added the file. which is right here. I'm going to review it again. I think I already did this, but rollout to production was blanked out because I didn't have all these green check marks. So I will start rollout to production, confirm. And let's see, now it is pending publication. So if I happen to look up here, this is the name of what I put in the manifest, Android manifest, the package name. And so if I go to this URL, it is not there yet. But when the thing is accepted, so after someone reviews it and accepts it, then this URL, this is how you will actually get to it. Now, the thing is, I don't know how you get something to be searchable. So my app is, of course, just a joke. If you search for it, you're not going to be able to find it when it's actually published. So that's one thing I still need to look at. But now, usually takes a couple hours, but now you can just use this URL and you have something officially on the App Store. So you can feel validated, like you're an official app now. All right, that's it.